UCC Talk 24. Here on this channel, we're all about the UCC, public and private rights, giving people information and knowledge to enrich themselves. Today I'm going to talk about living in the private, right, and the difference between public and private, right. This is very important to know the distinctions, right, because it can be confusing, right. The system has muddled, right, the understanding of the public and the private. Okay, just like all officers, when you get pulled over or you get stopped, they're making a presentment of a contract. You're contracting. That's why I told the officer one time, I said, I don't wish to contract with you, right? As I was talking with him, he said, you're contracting right now. So basically, they call that traversing. When you argue, right, with a public official, you're basically contracting. So you must try your best, right? You can't get emotional, so you got to hold your emotions in check, right? You can't scream and holler and be belligerent, right? Because now they could probably arrest you for being a belligerent party, right? So the best thing is to always stay calm, right? And stick to the facts, okay? I asked him first, if I get stopped, what is your RAS? What is your reasonable, articulable suspicion, right? And more than likely, they're going to look at you crazy. Okay? And then after that, you ask them, what is your RAF? What is your reasonable, articulable fact, right? So, it's something that you have to ask them. Like I said, they are going to look at you crazy. Okay, a lot of times they probably can't even answer those questions, right? So just always keep in mind that these are agents, they're looking to contract, right, with private citizens, right? Because when they stop you, they have to have a reason to cross over from the public into the private, right? You know, they have to have committed some type of public crime, right? Because their job is to keep the peace. But really, they're just contracting, because contracts is money. Because every time they write you a ticket, guess what? That's a contract. That's money. They have created bonds already. The bid bond, performance bond, right? They have all these bonds that are created in court, right? But you don't understand that. This was what's amazing. I asked the traffic when I was in traffic court. I asked the magistrate, "Was this a constitutional court?" He wouldn't answer me. You understand? He basically was like a politician and moved on to the next subject. That basically lets me know right now they're not declaring that they're acting under the Constitution. You understand? So very important to know. You see this word barratry, the crime of bringing false claims to court. The term barratry appropriately comes from the Bar Association. Attempted joinder by any legal person, actor is a crime involving deceit. So they basically, the all caps are straw man, right? They basically try to join you to as an actor join you to the action to the proceedings, right? Because really you're a third party. That's why I always let them know I'm a third party intervener. At the end of the day, right? You're basically seeking to hold you as a surety for the straw man. Right, through your signature, your tacit contracts, right? This is what they're doing. They're working the law of contracts, UCC. This is what they go to school for. Uniform Commercial Code, but they're not telling you that they're practicing it, right? That's why if any lawyer tells you, oh, we don't practice UCC in court, they are crazy. You better run the other way. I'm telling you right now. You understand? Also, you have to understand the issue of jurisdiction. Under the common law, jurisdiction, law of the land, both parties must enter into every contract knowingly, voluntarily, and intentionally, right? So they make it seem like you're entering into a contract knowingly, voluntarily, and intentionally, right? Or the contract is unenforceable and void. However, under the Admiralty and Maritime Jurisdiction, law of the sea, consent to contract can be presumed by silent acquiescence unless the party contracted thereby rebuts the presumption of consent. So you see that gold fins on the flag, and you know they're trained to deny that they're acting in the admiralty jurisdiction, but they are, right? Right. Because you see the military soldiers, you see they have the gold fringe flag too, right? So you're basically under military jurisdiction. And you deal with admiralty maritime jurisdiction. You're dealing with contracts. There was a contract somewhere, right? There was some type of contract that they have made a presumption that you have made the contract knowingly, voluntarily, and intentionally, right? There's a contract somewhere. That's why you have to automatically, if they have a warrant and you appear before the court or anything like that, you tell them to produce the contract signed by both parties, right? Because under the statute of frauds, any contract that's over $500 must be in writing, right? So they're seeking damages over $500, right? They better produce a contract that's signed by two flesh and blood parties. A lot of times they can't produce a contract unless you signed it. Now you sign a ticket, now you state a surety for the straw man, right? Just a regular signature, right? And basically all the surety is basically that holds liability for another without actually taking in the profits of the venture, right? You understand? So basically I'm holding your liability as a surety, right? But I'm not getting any profits from the other taking. It's like surety companies, right? When you take out a bond with a surety company, they say, okay, we're going to cover the bond, right? We're going to share in the liability, but for a fee, right? So I give you $10,000, you give me let's say a $5 million bond to cover this project if things don't go right, right? But I make $5 million. But if I'm making $5 million, right, the surety doesn't stand to profit in the venture. So they hold liability, but they don't stand to benefit from the transaction. They just benefit from the fee that you put up. You understand? So there's something to note. So that's why I always make sure that they understand that I don't stand a surety or an accommodation party to the action. You understand? You know how they ask you, okay, if your credit score is not up to par, they ask you for a signature of one that has better credit, right? So that person will basically lend their signature to the document, but now they stand as a surety and as an accommodation party to the action, right? So that means if the person doesn't pay, right, they're on the hook for the debt. So there's something to understand. Okay, so if you do not wish to consent to the contract offer presentment, you must rebut the presentment that you are acting in the role of a fictional legal person. You are never obliged to answer questions or to provide government ID. Truly, to uphold your government of the people, it is not your duty to answer questions. It is your duty to ask questions. That's the reason why a lot of times you'll notice that if you get stopped by a public servant, if you start asking them the questions first, like you hit them with the first questions, guess what? They're going to answer. Right? You got them on the ropes the minute that you ask them. Whoever asks the first questions, right, is on the ropes. You understand? The first thing to ask, right, especially if they put the lights on, excuse me, officer, what is the emergency? Right? Now they have to answer that question. Now if they answer that question, you already have another question ready for them, right? So you have to keep them answering questions because guess what? They are the public servants, right? You're not really obligated to give up a government issued ID, right? Okay? So the following definitions apply to the de facto incorporated state in which the agencies of government and all artificial legal persons are merely corporate franchises. Okay? Now this is what it means to be in a private. It's to live in a private capacity as a man or woman with flesh and blood, arms and legs, a conscious mind, a spirit and life. All men and women are created as equal sovereigns, endowed with unalienable rights, responsibilities, and credit, which is commercial energy. As natural men and women, they are created creditors. Their right to contract is unlimited, and they have unlimited liability. They are outside and above the state, from Latin privatus, set apart, belonging to oneself, not to the state. Now, this is what it means to be in the public. Is to act in public capacity as an accommodation party and joinder to an unofficial person created and governed by the state. All men and women who act in legal fiction roles for the state are granted conditional privileges and benefits prescribed in legislative acts. As unofficial persons, they are debtors. Their right to contract is limited, and they have limited liability. They are inside and under the state, from Latin publicus, of the people, of the state, done for the state. Very important to know, right? So this is the difference between artificial and natural. Okay? This is the jurisdiction that you want to deal with. When you deal with common law, it has to be damage to one's life, liberty, limb, or property, right? That's why a lot of times you want to know who's the injured party. Under the Sixth Amendment, you have a right to face your accuser, right? So produce an injured party or a signed contract signed by two parties if the contract is over $500. You understand? That's why any public document I put no recourse, because you put no recourse on any document, and they cannot hold you liable on that document. That's what that basically means. There's no recourse against you. You can pass it along, right? But if the paper doesn't stand and it doesn't do what you wanted to do, guess what? You can't come back to me, right? Right? Because I don't stand as a surety, and I don't sign as a surety, or make right, or act as a surety, or an accommodation party. You understand? You have to learn how to separate yourself automatically on that document, right? Because basically, what they're getting you to do is basically getting you to sign checks and cashing the checks, right, with your signature, with your endorsement, and you don't even know that they're getting money off of it, right? They're taking bonds out. You understand? Because you do know that order to pay that they send in the mail is basically just a promissory note, right? And they're looking at a contract with you. They're making a presentment and looking for you to offer, making an offer, right, for you to accept the contract, right? Accept the promissory note so they can file it. It's all about filing on the registry. They love making filings on their registries, right? Without your consent. There's no contract. Very important to know, guys, okay? People create governments to serve, not rule. And also take note of I see a lot of videos when they learn sovereign public and private rights, that they get real belligerent, right? And you don't really want to, and I've seen other people too come at it real calm, right? But you have to understand, you don't treat your servants, right? You have a servant, you don't treat them disrespect the servant, right? Because it's serving you. So you just have to let them know what position they're in, right? But you can do that calmly, right? Because sometimes you can get, belligerent public officials, right? So you also have to master the art of persuasion, especially when you're backing it up by case law. You understand? Okay, a representative government elected freely and fairly is by definition a public trust institute to serve private sovereign people in the common law jurisdiction. Such a sovereign government is an unincorporated common law assembly or a body politic, not incorporated body corporate. The sovereign people place their trust in the governing skills of their elected representatives, who are elected into office and not into power. Your representative goes in your place. The sovereign people are the employees of their representatives and all government employees. Right? Without exception, the employees of this public trust are public servants, workers for the private sovereign people, who are the free men and women of the nation. Alright? Like and subscribe if you're receiving value out of this video. right? And it's very important to know how to stay in the private, right? Know the difference between the two. You understand? Like I was telling you guys before, watch when you file those documents with the government, right? Because I don't really see it's even a need when I could use my agents and representatives, right? That's what you have to learn how to do. That's what you see rich people, they have advisors around them. They have lawyers. They have accountants, right? That file all the paperwork for them, right? Now, one of the agents, right, commit a crime, right? You're not held liable, right? Because you didn't consent. That's what happened with Donald Trump. Don King. When he got arrested for tax evasion, his agents was doing the tax filings, right? So he couldn't be held liable. That's why the OIDs, what people do is or the 1099As, they just have the business fill them out. They send it to them, send it in the mail, and say fill this out. Let them file it. You put the information on there, right? You can't be held liable because guess what? You didn't fill out the information. Right, you got the agent to do it, right? So obviously, if they're divvying in your funds in your account for every debit there's a credit, right? They're acting as an authorized agent because you authorized them with what? Your signature, right? Now, this is something to note. This is UCC Talk 24. Like and subscribe if you have received value, okay? So the sovereign people living on the land can assemble to constitute a sovereign government of the people, by the people, for the people, in the common law jurisdiction, the law of the land. When sovereign people constitute a sovereign government using their rights already existing, they are delegating their inherent powers to their de jure government and its agencies. Via their oath-bound public servants. Such a sovereign government is established by a lawful constitution as a body politic, whereas a fictional corporation is established by legal incorporation as a body corporate. A sovereign government of the people has no jurisdiction over any living man or woman without their fully informed and freely given consent, subject to the due process of law, right? But a government can register artificial legal persons and thereby control its own creatures of the state with statutory contracts in the admiralty, maritime jurisdiction, the law of the sea. A man or woman who contracts with the state freely or unwittingly consents to act in a public capacity as an artificial person which is controlled by the issuing authority, the state, while such a government grants privileges to artificial legal persons. It cannot grant any privileges that living men and women do not already have as unalienable rights. Your unalienable rights are limited by your common law responsibility not to harm other living people, and by your common sense responsibility toward the living earth, whose natural laws govern all life. Okay, guys, so you take a note. You can read this, pause that, and read this part right here. I try to go through it so you guys, could read it in your off time, right? When you were born, given life, a record of live birth is created as evidence of your life. The New Zealand equivalent is a notification of birth for registration. It is your affidavit of life, with details that identify your living standing. It records your given name as a unique title, John, to your estate. Your estate is the land or property of your mind, body, and soul, and all the physical and intellectual property that derives from your living energy, including your inborn unalienable rights. Your mother's autograph establishes the origin of your estate. An estate must come before a trust. In common law, the law of the land, your mother and the state are automatically trustees in an express sovereign trust with you as the beneficiary. You are the holder in expectancy of your estate, which will descend to you as of right when you attain the age of maturity. 20. Unless soon your parents are told that you must be registered. I was telling you, everything's a filing on the registry. That's what they do when they're born. They get that title, that birth certificate, right? And they file it. They take property because your parents have abandoned the title. That's why you have to know how to manage your own affairs, right? This is UCC Talk 24. Like and subscribe if you have received value. The living birth is to issue a birth certificate bond certifying that a property title is registered as a security. It is like a warehouse receipt for the baby. The delivered goods. A warehouse receipt, which is considered a document of title, may be a negotiable instrument used for financing with inventory as security. Black's Law Dictionary, 7th edition. At the same time, your given name and family name have been registered as a trademark. Your given name and family name have been registered as a trademark. Only corporations have a last name. A legal person has been issued by the state as a franchise child or the parent corporation. The bond is sold to the World Bank. Bank for International Settlements, created in 1931 by the Vatican as settlers of the trust. Your value to society is calculated using actuarial tables. Your bond becomes a registered security, which the Treasury uses as surety for Treasury securities, such as Treasury bonds, notes, and bills. You have been monetized. The people truly are the credit of the nation. However, in the corrupt system, the people's credit is effectively human capital or livestock. Although the state concedes the baby as a ward of the state, if the state's investment is threatened, its greatest value is realized for the matured working adult. The perpetrators of this deception know that you could one day discover the truth and invoke your power of attorney from the age of 18. Property Law Act 2007, right? Ooh, some powerful stuff, guys. You gotta check this out, all right? So I'm gonna go ahead and stop there, right? You gotta check that out, man. This is what they're doing, right? Your birth certificate is a title to your body, right? And they hold it in a Cestacate trust, right? And you are the Cestacate V, which is basically the body of the trust. You understand? So they basically have claim to your body, right? You understand? This is UCC Talk 24. We will be back with more videos, right, on this topic.